The story is usually told from the perspective of Peter, who is the main character in the story. But it is a Gentile, a Roman soldier, who initiates the narrative. Or should I rather say, it is God who initiates the narrative and Cornelius the vehicle to accomplish God's purposes. His appearance on stage is pretty brief, but he plays a pivotal role, and this story is worth our while. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Friday, May 26th, 2023. His name was Cornelius. His story is told in the 10th chapter of Acts. The narrative begins, "In Caesarea there was a man named Cornelius, a centurion of the Italian cohort, as it was called. He was a devout man who feared God with all his household. He gave alms generously to the people and prayed constantly to God." As usual, this brief introduction tells us a fair amount about Cornelius. He was a centurion, which was a lower-level officer in the Roman army, commanding somewhere between 60 and 100 soldiers, called a cohort. There would have been perhaps 4 cohorts manning the garrison at Caesarea. The rank of centurion was typically given to a career soldier who had risen through the ranks and would have been the highest rank such a soldier could achieve. The Italian cohort was apparently a cohort composed of Roman citizens from Italy, as the name suggests. This tells us that he was at least a middle-aged man who was a career soldier and who had earned sufficient respect to achieve this rank. As a Roman citizen, Cornelius would have been, by definition, a Gentile. And yet, he apparently identified closely with the Jews and with Judaism, but apparently not a convert. In other words, he prayed to God, to the God of Israel, gave donations, and included his family in his religious devotion. But as a Roman soldier, he probably would have been viewed with some suspicion by the Jewish population in Palestine at the time, being seen more as a foreign occupier than as a friend of the faith. And he was probably not circumcised, an important distinction in Judaism, all of which would have rendered him unclean to an observant Jew of the time. We can tell this much about Cornelius right from the start. From this brief introduction, the story unfolds. It's a bit lengthy, but the outlines of the story are this. Cornelius has a vision of an angel of the Lord who instructs him to send for Peter, who is staying in the coastal town of Joppa, some 32 miles to the south. He sends 3 representatives to go to Joppa, find Peter, and return with him to Caesarea. In the meantime, Peter has a dream in which God lowers something like a sheet filled with unclean animals, that is, animals that observant Jews were forbidden to eat, and God commands Peter to eat them. Peter refuses, saying, "By no means, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is unclean or profane." God responds, saying, "What God has made clean, you must not call profane." He has this same vision or dream 3 times, which serves to underline the message. When he wakes up, Peter is in the process of pondering this vision when Cornelius' representatives arrive at the house in Joppa and invite Peter to return to Caesarea with them. The next day, Peter leaves with them, arriving midday the following day. After talking with Cornelius, Peter discerns that God is declaring Gentiles to be clean, to be acceptable. And with that, Peter baptizes Cornelius and his household. Cornelius plays a minor but important role in this pivotal story. The story marks the first time, apparently, that Gentiles become part of the church. And it happens because of Cornelius' strong faith in God. Would this turn have happened without Cornelius? Would the Gentiles have been included? Certainly. God could have chosen anyone, but he happened to choose Cornelius, perhaps because his conversion was so unexpected, so remarkable, and so dramatic that it becomes a living example of what it means to welcome all whom God has called, regardless of race, regardless of nationality, regardless of condition. And this is good news for us, for without this turn to the Gentiles, we might still be worshiping pagan gods. Instead, we've been found acceptable to God and accepted into God's household. Cornelius' story is brief but critically important. The next time we're tempted to think of someone as an outsider, someone who doesn't belong among us, let's remember the story of Cornelius. In a very real sense, he is our forefather in the faith. Tomorrow, the sons of thunder. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.